The Lord of Darkness by Shelby Cody Sweeney. Part 1, The End of the World. Chapter 10, The Vote. Now that all the required attendees were in the beige void, Archangel Raphael of Patience and Healing exclaimed, "At last we can begin. Everyone, please take your seats." "I need my hands to vote," Nick said pointedly. "Why are his hands cuffed?" I asked. "He wouldn't come quietly," explained Michael gruffly, uncuffing him. "The signet would have brought him here automatically," I pointed out. "It's fine. I deserved it," said Nick, looking at Michael the same way he had when lying about the attempted murder. "Excellent," Raphael interjected decisively. "Now that that's settled, would anyone like to make a statement before we vote?" "Yeah, me," Nick declared quickly. Michael glared at him. "You wasted enough of our time already." "But I still get to speak," Nick replied firmly. "That's true, everyone has the opportunity to speak," Raphael agreed. "But Nick, I caution you to not abuse it." Normally, Nick would argue a comment like that, but after recent events, even he could recognize the wisdom in Raphael's words. He merely nodded at consent and launched into his pitch. "We help chosen people become as good as us, but we never give them a chance to be better than us. We don't evolve because we never have to. But what if we could? What if we could watch what humans become and cherry-pick the best stuff to improve our society?" "You can spend the next 1,000 years doing that," Archangel Uriel of Repentance and Forgiveness reminded him. "That's not long enough," Nick shouted, scorching the table where he banged his fist emphatically. Archangel Zad of Charity and Admissions pointed out, "They're better off in heaven than earth." Archdemon Belf of Sloth nodded with a wisdom he didn't possess. "If you leave fruit on the vine too long, it, goes rotten." "It's not better for them because it's not better for us," Nick argued. "And they are us, right? That's what we're saying when we invite them to join in our society. They're the same as us now. If our society gets better, they'll be joining a better society." "Face it, Nick," snapped Archdemon Roxy of Wrath. "Humans can't improve us." "You got no way to know that," Nick retorted. "That's my point. We don't know. Why aren't we trying to find out?" Archangel Jophi of Humility whispered loudly, "He's gone native again," which earned her several chuckles from the crowd and a vicious glare from Nick. Michael waited patiently for the ensuing argument to lull before speaking his piece. He was a little surprised that Nick had some reasonable points, and he was very surprised Nick didn't mention him once. Archangel Michael of Security was convinced it was a ploy to guilt him into not speaking out in favor of Earth's apocalypse. Nick had tricked him into committing assault and was now discreetly blackmailing him. "All right, that's enough," said Raphael authoritatively. "Kindly show some decorum. Does anyone else want to make a statement?" Not about to let the devil coerce him into silence, Michael stood, instantly commanding the attention of the room. His hair swished heroically in non-existent wind. His obsidian armor glinted on his broad shoulders and chest. Nick fought the urge to roll his eyes. "I do," Michael declared. "Humanity's been an embarrassment for thousands of years. They're a bigger pain in the ass than any other chosen people." He was preaching to the choir, so to speak. "I don't aim to start an argument about how it all happened. That's ancient history. The point is, it did happen. Humans are hard work, and I'm sick of doing it. We did our jobs, got them past their final milestone. We earned some time off, followed by a more functional and traditional world." "That's not why we exist," objected Archangel Nick of Faith and Penance. "Nick, you've already said your piece," Raphael reminded him, dissuading Michael from escalating matters with a stern look. "I want to say something," announced Horseman Danny of Death, stepping forward. Everyone turned to her with surprise. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse had been standing apart from the rest of us, not participating, and I'm ashamed to admit I kind of forgot they were there. As humanity's representatives, the horsemen's votes counted every bit as much as the rest of ours, but privately, many archangels and archdemons thought of their presence as ceremonial. Nick gave Danny an encouraging smile, while secretly worrying about what she might say. Danny said, "I had a real shitty time on Earth. Then I went to hell and had a shitty time there for a while, until I learned I deserve love, and so does everyone else. After that, my penance made sense, and I even liked some of it. I got so much better. I want to see an earth full of people who are good enough for heaven. It sounds like lots of people here want to see it too. I don't understand why the rest of you don't just walk away and go on your vacation or whatever and let us have Earth for a little longer. We recycle resources for use in other worlds, Archangel Jophi of Humility explained. Can't God just create more resources? Horseman Danny of Death suggested. Theoretically, admitted Jophi, but it just isn't done. I have a brief statement, Uriel declared. I agree with everyone who's spoken so far. There was a pause before Zad pointed out, you can't agree with everyone, they disagree with each other. Sighing, Uriel explained. Nick's right about potential benefits of reevaluating traditional practices. Danny's right that we should simply ask God for the resources and permission to try out new ideas. Michael's right that none of us agreed to take on such a venture, and it would be unreasonable and cruel to force anyone into it. Furthermore, Earth would be a terrible model for change, given its troublesome past. Therefore, we should proceed with Earth's apocalypse as planned. Then Nick should explain to God what he wants to try, and if they give permission, he should get his own team of volunteers to help him implement it on a new world. No one present was prepared to respond to that. Michael was relieved to hear Uriel was pro-apocalypse, but found the rest of his statement deeply unsettling. How could Uriel, the smartest person he'd ever met, even consider something as dangerous as letting Nick run a world? Michael didn't want to be the one to remind everyone not to encourage the devil's reckless behavior, but he was annoyed that no one else did it for him. Any more statements? Asked Archangel Raphael of Patience and Healing. All right then, time to vote. There was a beep as ballots appeared in front of us, and more beeps as everyone tapped in their choices. After a moment, Raphael said, all votes are in. We will proceed with Earth's apocalypse, effective immediately, with 10 votes in favor and 8 against. Not everyone shared their decisions, but as near as I can tell, those who voted in favor of Earth's apocalypse were Michael, Lucifer, Leviathan, Zad, Christopher, Merrick, Roxy, Mammon, Raphael, and Uriel. And those who voted against it were Nick, Beelzebub, Belf, Kiara, Danny, Asmodeus, Jophi, and me. Honestly, it was a much closer vote than I expected. All expression dropped from Nick's face. On his shirt, the pointer clicked the delete button, and the Earth and dialogue vanished. Danny looked ready to fight, but Nick warned her against it with a look. The 4 horsemen returned to Earth to resume the apocalypse. Surprisingly, no one suggested we put them on trial for going there in the first place, and Nick on trial for imprisoning them there. I think we were all ready to put the whole affair behind us. Without another word, the archangels and archdemons of Earth made a somber funereal procession to the Room of Worlds and through a portal that brought us to outer space 1,000 light years from Earth. The Apocalypse engineers had rigged 2 collapsed stars to enter a collision course when the Apocalypse key was activated. Fortunately, they thought to add a failsafe that suspended the passage of time in that region if the Apocalypse key was deactivated before the collision took place. Then, the system entered a safe mode and could only be re-triggered manually. It was a shame no one thought to mention this while Nick was holding all those people hostage. Raphael nodded to the lead engineer, who dutifully pressed the button that unfroze time in the area. The dying stars collided, generating a gamma-ray burst that would wipe humanity from the cosmos. No one spoke as we floated in the vacuum of space, watching the collapsed stars silently collide. Nick left as soon as the blinding light and gamma rays tore past on their inevitable journey to Earth. As soon as I had a spare moment, I hurried off to find Nick. I found him in the first place I looked, his office in hell. Heaven is the same for everyone, but each world has its own hell. Earth's hell was very cavernous in that it was spacious and full of magnificent rock formations. It's meant as an encouraging reminder of how some beautiful things take a long time to develop. Despite your misconceptions, Earth's hell is gorgeous and temperate, and I strongly recommend visiting at some point. The rooms and corridors were formed over millions of years while the Earth was in its youth. Alterations and additions are made as needed, but given our celestial abilities, the modifications are practically indistinguishable from the originals. Really, the whole thing could have been formed instantaneously, but I've been told that a true artist would be offended by such a suggestion. I walked into Nick's office without bothering to knock. An exquisite fireplace formed by meticulously planned mineral deposits dominated the wall to my right. A fire had been roaring there nonstop for the last 11,520 years. The wall to my left was full of shelves, which were themselves full of artifacts from countless worlds Nick had worked on or visited. Directly in front of me, Nick sat at a large desk made of solid marble. It was tan, with spatters of black and red mineral veins coursing through it like motionless rivers. My stomach twisted into a worried knot when I realized Nick's t-shirt was displaying the number of days remaining before Earth ends. On the other hand, he didn't appear to have been drinking heavily, sulking in creative shadow displays, dismantling his closest relationships, or any of the other telltale signs of the devil on the edge. Nick didn't even look up when I walked in. His eyes were focused on the 13 screens open in front of him, trying to keep things in order amongst all the excitement. After a minute or so, he looked up and warily attempted to smile. "Hey, Gabriel, what's up?" "I came to see how you're doing," I told him. He blurted out a pained laugh. "I figured as much," I replied. "Thanks for checking on me," Nick said, patting my shoulder. "I really appreciate it, but I'll be okay. How are you?" "Disappointed," I said. He nodded and we sat in silence for a moment. "So, what now?" I asked finally. Nick grinned. "With Earth? Now that I have free reign for 1,000 years? Haven't really thought about it." "Oh, come on." Nick leaned forward conspiratorially. "Well, if you really want to know, I could use your help for the next bit." "In what way?" I asked, eyes narrowing with dark suspicion. "Just your usual gig," he assured me quickly. "Message delivery." I relaxed. "Oh, who am I delivering it to?" "As many humans as possible," said Nick. "You see, I always thought humans ought to know more about what's going on in the multiverse." I rolled my eyes. "Of course, because that philosophy's worked out so well for you in the past." "Except this time nobody cares what I do because we're tearing it all down soon," Nick replied. "Well, hang on there," I began. "I'm not going to do anything crazy," Nick assured me. "I just mean we're past the secrecy stage. We can tell them stuff now that they earned heavenly admittance." "Provided we don't give them proof," I reminded him. Nick scoffed. "Obviously." "So, what do you want me to tell them?" I asked. He considered it for a moment. They gotta know the world's ending. When and why. Start with that in case they get bored and stop reading." "Why would they get bored and stop reading?" I asked. "I'm not trying to be rude," Nick replied carefully, "but the Bible was a bit... Just try to make it entertaining and not depressing, if possible." I didn't write the Bible, but I'm frequently blamed for its mistakes. As the Archangel of Communication, I played a major role in communicating the story to the many people who wrote it down. I maintain that it's barely my fault you misunderstood so many of the messages. "Fine," I agreed, rolling my eyes. "That's all I ask," Nick smiled, patting me on the shoulder. "After you tell them about the apocalypse, go back to the beginning." "How far back?" I wondered. "The garden," Nick replied as if it were obvious, which I guess it should have been. "I want you to tell them about what I did and what I had to do to fix it." "They know most of that already," I protested. "They don't know why," he contended. "I don't think I know why either," I admitted. Nick smiled. "Don't worry, I'll tell you everything."